Hey folks, Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist, and today I'd like to show you my vintage Benelli M1 Super 90. I was just checking out online. It seems that it has been re-released, the Benelli M1 Super 90. Not the exact same gun apparently, but close to it. It just says a lot of how appreciated these guns have always been. The M1 Super 90 was maybe one of the first reliable tactical semi-automatic shotguns, at least the ones that I could think of. There was the Franchi Spaz, which was like a big old thing with, looked very cool and all, but not always that reliable, quite a bit heavier as well. This is where it was really at, and for a very long time I would see these on gun magazines and movies and always wanted one. Eventually, one of those days, online, looking around, I saw one of this one selling for $300. Yeah, sure, I gave those guys a phone call and arranged things, but it is a great shotgun, no doubt. Now, shotguns in general in the survival prepper community, they are appreciated as some of the more reliable, more versatile guns. And that is theoretically correct. A shotgun can do a number of things. In theory, you can hunt a small game with a shotgun, a large game, depending on the ammunition. Most of the versatility comes from the ammunition that you're using it. You can use stuff like those Hexalate 32, which are just brutal for hunting. You can use buckshot for hunting, self-defense type of thing. You can use, a small a bird shot or larger bird shot, like this one is like with like a rapid load or something like that. But even at close distance, a shotgun is quite powerful no matter what you're shooting it with. Now, there's the saying there that the bird shot is only for little birds. Well, no one that ever got shot with one of those suckers at close distance ever thought that. They are quite there's a lot of power in each of these shells, no matter what you're even shooting. Even less than lethal rounds, the plastic buckshot that is used for riots and crowds, that sort of thing, even plastic buckshot at very close range can and has been lethal in the past. There's just a lot of power in a 12 gauge shell. So the advantage is also that you can use stuff like these. You can use slugs, which stretches the effective range and the type of game you can get with a shotgun. Both of those, the Mossberg 500 and my Benelli M1, both of these have rifle sights, and that's the way I like it, because one of the advantages is using these kind of things. At 50 meters, no problem. It's going to be shooting almost like a rifle. It's very accurate as well at such distances. That's where a lot of the fame of shotguns in the survival world comes from. There's also a couple other advantages. First, it is maybe one of the easiest guns to get, legally speaking. A number of different countries, different gun laws, but in general, in most countries, shotguns are some of the easiest guns to get. Maybe there's restrictions on handguns, maybe there's restrictions on semi-automatic centerfire rifles with detachable box magazines. UK, for example, would be a good example. Well, neither one of these would be legal in UK, I believe, because of the barrel length, but a little bit of a longer barrel, and these would be perfectly legal in some of the most restrictive countries in terms of firearms in the world. So that is also an advantage. Then, again, from a survival prepper perspective, these things, 12 gauge shotgun shells, they're all over the place. They're basically like 22 long rifle, maybe even easier. No matter how small, crappy, a little gun store of a dead-end minimum population town is, there's gonna be a box of 12 gauge shells somewhere there. It is one of the most common rounds in the planet, besides a 22 long rifle, I guess. So all of these things make it a very highly appreciated gun in the survival world. That versatility, you can use it for small game, defense, hunting. One of the guns that mostly comes into mind is a pump-action shotgun like the one I have there, either the Mossberg 500, the Remington 870. Those two would be typically considered the classic survivalist or prepper shotgun. Now, I kind of disagree with that a little bit in terms of, is that really the ideal? If I had to pick one of the shotguns I had as my only end-of-the-world type of gun thing, I would go with the Benelli M1. And the reason for this is the following. As long as I'm loading it with a somewhat heavier load, and you have those in bird shots, of course, buckshot and slugs will not be a problem at all. But this gun will run flawlessly with anything that's more than 30 grains of weight in terms of the load that it has. Anything that's over 30 is going to be running it flawlessly in hundreds of rounds. I know that because I've tested just that myself. And the advantage that you have in a gun like this, well, you have several. First of all, it's a super nicely made gun. Benelli makes nice shotguns. I doubt anyone will be questioning that. So it's an excellent shotgun in terms of construction. It's very light as well. That's something that, unless you handled one of these before, you kind of not know that. Specifically, the old Benelli M1, which is this one, the vintage model, is very appreciated by 3-gun shooters because of how well constructed it is. The difference between the M1 and the M2 is not all that great, and in all honesty, they just made a few parts of plastic instead of metal. I think that the trigger group is plastic in the M2. I know that there's a following for these type of guns, specifically for the 3-gun shooters. They customize those, so yeah, a fantastic gun to have. And then obviously the big advantage is semi-automatic. This is total capacity is 7 plus 1 in the chamber. You have like a stick thing, so that's to reduce the capacity for hunting depending on the legal aspect of it, wherever it is that you're hunting with. So you can remove that or put it back in depending on what you need, what you're doing. But you have, at the end of the day, you have 7 rounds plus 1 of, as it says here, 12 gauge. Let me get that changed there. So you get to see that. 12 gauge Magnum. So there's nothing really that you cannot solve with 8 rounds of 12 gauge in a semi-automatic shotgun. It is just they all go, they all run very well. It's a very basic mechanism as well, and very efficient. That's one of the things I like the most. Sometimes you come across these opinions, and it's usually people that don't know a whole lot about shotguns, or their knowledge is somewhat more limited. But the usual comment is, oh, semi-automatic shotguns, not reliable. Well, it's not always like that. It depends on the gun, it depends on the ammunition that you're feeding it depends on the operator, the user. If he knows what he's doing, he knows what ammunition and what and how his gun works. I know that with a proper stance, using the stock properly, you know, you get a good grip on your gun, and it is not gonna be failing you. And it's super, super reliable. You have to oil it. There's little tricks and things to go about it, but mechanically speaking, the simplicity of this gun, it just couldn't be easier. There's no gas system like in your newer M4s. It is super simple, and at least for me, it's been super reliable as well. I cannot fault it in that regard. But you just load your rounds in there, and man, you're good to go. It's an advantage that, at least for me, it is valuable. It is important. The ability to shoot those rounds semi-automatically. You know, with a pump shotgun is a fantastic gun. Don't get me wrong. There's no faulting a pump shotgun for what it is, but you have to operate for each round fired. That may not seem like a big deal, and man, it's been in patrol cars, in police vehicles since forever. It is a fantastic, reliable gun. But that operation, worst case scenario, you're wounded, you just need that quick follow-up shot. Yes, you can shoot very fast a pump action shotgun. A lot of guys can in the shooting range. They're doing that same thing when someone is shooting back at you, or especially if you're wounded, not so easy anymore. So here's where the advantage of the semi-automatic comes in. There's just not a lot that you cannot fix with 8 rounds of buckshot in this gun. It just puts a lot of lead downrange. If we're talking specifically of self-defense, yes, you could argue that you want a carbine, you want your M4, your AR, your whatever, but nothing that you cannot solve, that you can solve with one of those, are you going to be lacking with one of these. They're still used for tactical units across the world. They're just fantastic guns. So yeah, that is it. They're just great guns, and the ability to shoot semi-automatic is not to be underestimated. Also, let's keep it honest. The truth is that for so many years, this has been the go-to gun for police departments because, first of all, it works well. Second, it's a matter of cost as well and training. You don't have always the kind of money that police departments wish they had sometimes, so that comes into play as well. Also, seeing what kind of round your specific gun likes best and messing with that comes into play. Also, police many times use less than lethal rounds, so it makes a lot of sense to have a gun that can be used effectively with a type of ammunition. But semi-automatic shotguns is what the M4 is and what the US military is using for good reason. The advantage is definitely there. Guys, see you in the next video. Have an awesome day.